The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip, and CJ's mic is.
I'm here.
Okay, there we are. Okay. Well, we've had a horrific last 10 or 12 days. I think they said historically this is the greatest amount of snowfall we've ever had in a 10-day period since it's been recorded. So I guess everybody is managing finally to get out and about, and we're here and we're ready to go. And I guess last night's we can begin by going right to last night's council meeting. There was a little fireworks down there, CJ. Is that
a lot of fireworks, Chip. A lot of fireworks, and I found it very interesting to say the least. I don't know who pissed in everyone's Wheaties last night. But it definitely was an interesting scenario on what was going on. And I think the people need to realize that I don't agree with what Leo Pelletier did. He called out Chief Viveris the way he did publicly. I believe he should have had a private meeting with him. But, I think Leo was, voicing the opinions of some people in Fall River that feel that, nothing's really happening. When you're the head of a department, whether it be DCM, the police department, the fire department, you should have a grasp on finances. That's neither here nor there, but you really should have a grasp on finances, and you can't say somebody else handles that because it's been said numerous times, the buck stops here, and we know this to just be factual in that. But I think what was interesting is, and I made it my personal, endeavor to make sure that it happened, and I finally got a copy of Cushing's Rules of Order in PDF format, and it will be emailed today to all the city councilors. And that is so they can finally say, oh, well, I have it, so I can't say anymore. I don't know what it is. Because last night, for the first time that I could see, a point of order was called against the council president, Joe Camara, and told, if you want to speak, you need to step into the well. You need to pass the gavel to somebody else. And his statement was, I'm the chairman of the finance committee. This isn't the city council meeting, and therefore I can ask as many questions as I want. Wrong. You have to pass the gavel. You have to step down into the well, and someone must take your chair. Just because the people in the city council don't know the rules and think that they can do what they want when they want does not mean they can. And Chip, you and I have run many organizations. We're not parliamentarians by any sense of the word, but I think we're a little more along the lines of parliamentary procedure than the group known as the city council.
Well, yeah, you're right. And the fact is that from a parliamentary standpoint, some issues actually it's so kind of in a gray area that you need to call on a parliamentarian, but some things are just so blatantly a violation of the fundamental rules of either Cushing's or Roberts or Atwood's or whichever you use, which are the three primary rules of order that he used in organizations. Probably Roberts the most now, but Atwood's at one time was very, very prevalent throughout all the labor unions and organizations that didn't want some of the really strict protocols and it allowed them a little bit more latitude. But the fact is, when Joe Camara said he was the chairman of the finance committee, and speaking as such, why wasn't he down in the well at the table with the committee? The fact is that, these people don't, if it's a committee meeting and they're at the table, if he wanted to be the chairman of the finance committee, he should have been sitting at the head of the table in the well, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe we're going to need a parliamentarian to determine if I'm correct or not. But the fact is, when you stand at the president of the city council's podium you are the president of the city council, or at least giving that perception. If when I ran a meeting, if I sat at the table of the chair officers in the president's seat, and I spoke, I couldn't say, well, I'm speaking because I'm also ex officio chairman of whatever committee's reporting. The fact is, I'm sitting in the president's chair, therefore the perception is, I am the president, and I believe you were right. I guess we're gonna have to get we may need a clarification, but I also think it's kind of not giving the people in that committee their proper due. I mean, you sit with them. You're part of that committee. Sit with the committee. Sit at the head of the table if you're the chairman, but don't stand at the podium above them like, Moses waiting for the Red Sea to part. So on that issue, I think but there's just so many issues at the city council for gross, ignorance as far as parliamentary procedure. I mean, let's face it, even the person with the most rudimentary understanding of parliamentary procedure knows that a motion to table is non-debatable. I don't think I've ever seen a motion to table in front of the city council that wasn't debated, sometimes for hours. So, I mean, it's a little, I don't know where we're going to begin to educate them, but I don't really believe that it's going to be, I think it's going to be a very long time before we actually see a meeting run in accordance with any rules of parliamentary procedure.
Well, I firmly believe you're right there. The thing that really, I think, scares me most of all is a finance committee meeting, which starts at 6 o'clock, takes in some citizens' input time, and then runs until 9 o'clock at night before the regular city council meeting even happens, is based solely on the fact that you have 9 people who yesterday wanted to glorify the camera. The meetings have become longer and longer and longer ever since we put cameras in the city council chamber. And, say what you gotta say and move on. But that doesn't seem to happen, because once seat 1 says it, seat 3 has to say it, seat 2 has to say it, seat 8 has to say, everyone has to make a comment about it. And they're all the exact same words. So we listen to the same statement 9 times from 9 different people, because the voters may, if I don't speak, the voters are going to say, well, they're not doing anything.
Yeah, unless you don't show up. But then,
well, that happened too last time.
Well, at least he couldn't say present because he wasn't present. But that's another issue. But along those lines, it's my personal opinion, and it's my opinion. I think that when they have that much in the way of questions, it's going to take that long, I really believe that they should call for a special meeting. I mean, if they're going to need 3 or 4 hours to discuss financial matters, and we all understand, the dire straits. Well, I think the only people that think we're in dire straits are the people who are paying attention, because I guess Kathy Ann and Mr. Nunes were again saying we're on target, we're here, we're there. Everything's always rosy, and I believe Councilor Mitchell and a few other people had comments to say that we don't believe that we are. We're hearing rumblings from the mayor, although that's for a comment a little later in the show about where they are. We haven't heard much from them lately. They've been persona non grata. I understand they're busy, but the reality is, if we have 3 or 4 hours worth of questioning, which I believe is valid, I want to see a lot of questions. I want to see a lot of questions asked about the finances of the city, because I truly believe that, and have been for a long time, we are on the verge of receivership. But the fact is, it doesn't belong delaying a council meeting forever, and it's just not appropriate. Let's have a night, and let's allow the citizens to go down there, and let's allow us to get a full evaluation and an examination of what's happening. And on that line, what happened with Chief Viveris last night, I think, was really, in a way, inappropriate. The fact is, he is a department head. He is supposed to know the finances, but if you have very, very specific questions on a budget, very, very, pointed to a particular area, I believe he was right. Councilor Pelletier should have given him a heads up that he either wanted those answers or had a private meeting with him. Look, the reality is, I don't think there's a department head in the city that does their own budget. I happen to know the administrative assistant to the fire department. He's an extremely competent guy. He used to work in a bank and do all kinds of balancing, and he's very good with figures. I'd stack him against anybody in the city, and I'm sure he could provide any answer. Because when I asked him for specific questions, financial questions, as the president of the union, when we were doing contract negotiations or doing things like that, no matter what question I asked him, to cost out anything, to give me a specific cost for something like this, or what the overtime budget is, I got an answer virtually, immediately. And if it was something that was really complicated, he told me he would get it to me within a day or two, and he always did. Extremely competent guy. I think it's unfair to take a department head and get that specific with a budget without at least saying, look, these are the answers I'm looking for. I think general answers to the budget, yeah, he should have it. But these department heads have a lot more to do than just the budget. The budget is part of their job. But to know the budget inside out is like asking the mayor to know the budget inside out. That's what we have treasurers and auditors and city administrators for, although it doesn't seem that any of those people in our city know what's going on. But the fact is, that's what they're there for. And I think it was, I don't think it was right to go there with him. I think if he didn't have the answers to the questions, and they were questions that he should have got a heads up on. If it was something that's not general, overall specific, if you're going to get that specific, I think you needed a heads up. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you, Chip. But again, I think what's happening too is not only are the people, but maybe it's now starting with the city council. They're tired of hearing from department heads and especially from Mr. Nunes. I don't have that answer, and I'll bring it back to you. Nunes is the treasurer. I mean, of all people, he should have most of the answers. But unless Leo had met him privately and had the conversation, I think that was just, that was just sideswiping him, just coming in from nowhere.
That was an ambush, and that's what bothers me, because why weren't they that irate with Kathy Ann Viveras and Mr. Nunes?
Well, because they're right. They are on point. They are right where they need to be. They're right on the road to receivership. So they're not making a mistake there. Yeah. But moving forward a little bit, because as we opened with snow, I spoke again last night of my usual annual tirade about snow plowing versus snow removal. And I didn't say Kenny Pacheco did a bad job. I didn't say he did a good job. I offered a solution. I am offering the solution which has been in existence for decades. The Midwest, more specifically Minneapolis area, upstate New York, Canada, they all do snow removal, not snow plowing. Snow plowing is inefficient. It is costly. And it does nothing but move the crap everywhere in everyone's way and causes more safety issues. Snow removal is an easy method to use. We do it downtown all the time. Every snowstorm, if you go downtown in front of the courthouse, it's clear. And as I said, I'm a taxpayer. I own property, I pay taxes. So why is a building that pays no taxes, i.e. the courthouse, able to get such excellent service for parking and for street cleaning, and the citizens who pay taxes get nothing? All you have to do, the parking ban goes into effect. Towards the end of the snowstorm, you send the snow removal equipment out. They in turn, it's like huge snow blowers. They blow the snow into a large dump truck, which then hauls the snow to a park and dumps the snow in the park. The park's not for use in the winter, we know this. So it's not bothering anybody. You do one side one day, and after the 24 hours, you do the other side. Now you've got a perfectly clear street. And on streets which are small, in Fall River we have some very narrow streets, you do that. You just take care of that whole street. The argument has always been that the vendors don't want to spend the money on the equipment. Well, guess what? Then they don't make any money. And you and I both know money is a lever that moves man. So they're going to spend that money. My problem is that I think that because we've been doing it for so long, and you look at the names on the trucks who are very well connected to the city of Fall River, the people just in government just don't want to make any changes, because that means their friends, their family, their contractors all have to go out and make an investment. Last year, Kenny Pacheco told me that every one of these private vendors was going to be equipped with a GPS device so we can follow them and know what they're doing. Did that happen? And if it happened, why do we have people trailing these private plow companies to make sure they're doing their job? Now, that's more money being spent for somebody to keep on top of the vendor to do his job. So we're double spending the money. It seems to me that it's just one waste after another. Good money after bad.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that we would actually, in the long term, save money with snow removal, because, let's face it, it's something that's more efficient. The equipment probably costs a little bit up front, but ultimately, it works. You look at the major cities, you look at the areas like upstate New York and Minnesota and Wisconsin, they get tons and tons of snow. They normally do it that way. But you got to remember the other factor too, politics. When you got snow removal like we do, everybody that knows somebody can buy a pickup truck and put a plow in the front of it and make a ton of money. That's one of the other problems. If you've got snow removal, it's quicker.
Not only is it quicker though, Chip.
And it's more efficient.
It is, but not only that. I mean, we had more plow trucks that were out, and we're talking the little pickup trucks with the blade on the front, getting stuck. So how is that efficient? We're losing money because we pay them by the hour. So even though they're stuck in the snow and not doing anything, they're still collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, you know what they'll say? Well, we only get one of these blizzards every 20 or 30 years, and the regular snow, a foot or so we can handle, and it's people complain a little bit, but it gets the job done. And it's one of those situations where they go, well, let's not prepare for the worst case scenario, because it happens so infrequently, and it's the old political con. But believe me, if somebody that was connected was going to make a lot of money dealing with snow removal in this city, we would have snow removal starting next year.
Oh, yeah,
I have absolutely no doubt about that, because that is the lever that moves everything in this city, which brings us to another thing about what moves. Windowgate seems to have disappeared. The investigation into the 22 windows that were placed in City Hall and who authorized them has gone the way of the Cushing Gate investigation. It just has been put aside. It's like, okay, out of sight, out of mind, let's not figure out who screwed the city, because who cares? It's not our money, it's just the taxpayers' money. Why did we install those windows? How much did it ultimately cost? We don't care, because it's not our money. I can guarantee you if it was their money, there would be a full and thorough investigation, and they would try to recoup the losses. But since it's our money, who gives a damn?
I agree, Chip. It's just getting to be funnier and funnier. But let's move on to the next great thing for Fall River, because it's going to bring in economic development, historic tax credits. I guess Commonwealth Landing isn't doing as good as they like to say. This morning, a gentleman by the name of Aaron Kudo, happy birthday, Aaron, by the way, I know it's your birthday today, posted the story on the Herald News that because the Hilton Hotel deal is falling through over at Commonwealth Landing, they want to now put in 103 rental units, high-end rental units. Which is a wonderful thing, but we already had a high-end program which failed miserably, known as Point Gloria. But you and I both know that tax credits are given mainly when it comes to housing for affordable housing, i.e. low-income housing. Aaron's saying, do my research on historic tax credits. Okay. This is one of the reasons why I hate Facebook, because everyone and their brother comes out who knows absolutely nothing, although Aaron, I do believe, knows a lot. And I have a great deal of respect for Anthony Cordero because this is a businessman who's done a lot for Fall River and has had a lot of developments. But what's historic about this building? It's a mill. Okay, what is it with mills in Fall River and everyone wanting to preserve them? And we need 103 rental units on the waterfront like we need a hole in the head. We need a hotel on the waterfront, which, by the way, in the Herald News article, clearly stated that a hotel on the waterfront is a doable project. So why isn't it doable there? Now, it's interesting that Commonwealth Landing was the choice because, again, we had a whole bunch of problems under the Flanagan administration with money being spent hand over fist over this particular project. And from the rumors, and again, these are unconfirmed, the restaurants that are located in that location aren't doing as well as they could. So, of course, being a good businessman, you want to look at every option you may have to maximize your return on your investment. But historic tax credits for this building, I think, is shady, not the best deal going, and I think it's going to have a major problem. But we've already seen what the city council does anyways with things like that. You look at the Canal Street property, and they just took a $13 million tax budget thing and said, okay, yeah, place it on file. They didn't even look into it. It's just money, no problems. So how much more taxpayer dollars are going to be invested in this private enterprise? And some people are saying, well, it will generate jobs. It generates temporary jobs. Understand something. Temporary jobs do not create economic development. It creates a short-term economic boost. All right? Being a naysayer or is not what people are. People are stating facts. The problem is that the majority of people who turn around and say you're a naysayer or say that you're nothing but an online troll, I follow all the situations online, whether it be Facebook, whether it be YouTube, whether it be the Herald News and other newspaper organizations. I find out what's going on and I get the information I have. And I don't have to do a lot of research because I already know the situation, as do you, Chip. But, you know, it gets to be very interesting when you hear these statements from people who actually don't have an idea at all. So.
Well, you know one thing about people who are connected in politicians. You know, if they, you know, they will figure out a way to get what they need. You know, they may not get what they want, but they'll get what they need. So now we're going to distort what a historic tax credit is to suit a developer who is very influential in the city. You know, a mill, I mean, yeah, we've got mills. I mean, I guess somebody should stop them from destroying the King Philip mill because it's historic. Wait a minute, it's a mill. You know, we still got a few mills. If you want to see a mill turned into apartments, drive over to Tiverton Line. There's a mill right there with a whole bunch of apartments that have been turned over. High-end apartments, come on. Look, you know, if the only lamp that lights your way is the lamp of experience. We've already done the Point Gloria deal. How many times do we have to tell these people that the waterfront is you need to deal with commercial things like container shipping? Fall River is never going to have the waterfront that all these people delude themselves we're going to have. We're 20 minutes from one of the greatest waterfronts on the East Coast, Newport, Rhode Island. We're a half an hour from Cape Cod. Get a grip on reality, will you please? Point Gloria, and look at the economic status of the people who live in Fall River. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen when this becomes a reality, and it will, because the money people want it. And it will become a reality, and they probably will get a tax break, and they will build it. And unlike the baseball field in Iowa, if you build it, they shall come. Well, you build it, and they won't come. Because who's going to come down here and take a high-end apartment in a city with an average income of $34,000 and can't sustain any businesses? And Remy's will be out of business, or they're looking to sell anyway. the reality is it's going to end up like Point Gloria. They're going to roll it over into Section 8 and subsidized housing, and he's going to make money because the state pays big dollars for subsidized housing. Guess what? I'm predicting it now.
Chip, you're a naysayer. How dare you? Oh my God, you're a troll. You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah, you know, everybody from Boston's going to run down from their condos down here and grab something on the waterfront, because look where they can go. They can go to 27,000 different pizza joints, the Chinese restaurants, and you know, we got a bunch of Portuguese restaurants, which are very good. But outside of a Portuguese restaurant, how many decent steakhouses do we have? How many decent Italian restaurants do we have? None. None.
No, you got to go to Providence.
So we're going to run, everybody's going to run down here because of the great cultural and ethnic types of options we have in the city of Fall River. Let's face it, if you don't want a Cherie sandwich or some shrimp Mozambique, you got to leave Fall River.
Yeah, and Chip, you know, I mean, really, what's our claim to fame in Fall River? Okay, Lizzie Borden and heroin junkies. We're all set. I mean, isn't that enough of a draw to bring some high-end people down to Fall River to live here? I mean, let's be real. Even the chief of operations refuses to move to Fall River. So, I mean, that tells you something.
Well, I mean, look, I've been to Taunton, Rainham area. If you get off the highway, there's like you know, I mean, they're a third of our size. Rainham's even smaller, but Taunton's maybe a third of Fall River size. Look at all the restaurants they got. I mean, you get off 140 and 44, there's restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and you come to Fall River, it's like, you know, where can I get, you know, I mean, it's impossible to find a decent restaurant. But while we're talking about CO, I have to say that I'm a little disappointed we haven't heard more from our mayor. The fact is that he talked about transparency in government, and that's great, but I'd like to at least see him once in a while. You know, I don't want him to be like Will Flanagan. Will Flanagan called a press conference to open an envelope. But the fact is, all he did was call press conferences and did nothing progressive for the city. But I mean, I think that, you know, I understand he's very busy. I understand that you know, we've had a very, very difficult time with the snow and things, and I know they're looking at things, but I think an update would have been nice. I think maybe at least somebody, either he or somebody from his quote-unquote transition team, should be giving, you know, not only the city council, but the people of Fall River some kind of idea of how we're doing. I mean, I'm not going to be like Leo Pelletier and demand specific answers from the chief. I just want to know how we're doing, what it looks like, you know, where we're going. Give us an idea, you know? I mean, that's all I'm asking.
Well, the neighborhood associations aren't happy at all, especially Helen Rigo. She's been screaming about this for days now, that the mayor doesn't return phone calls. He's unavailable when they go to the office. The special assistant to the mayor keeps saying that he's going to return a phone call. Helen Rigo's not the only one. I spoke with Carlos Caesar yesterday and several others, and it just seems to be on and on and on and on. So it's not a good deal. It's not good for the people of Fall River. And I think people need to realize that we got to wake up and smell the coffee. Well, that's come to the end of our show, and it never seems to be enough time. And Chip, people want commentaries from you. They keep hearing mine, but we need to get some from you, so we're going to have to start taping some commentaries for you, Chip.
Okay, just avoid the yellow snow, everybody.
That's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and be safe out there.